Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsey Elton. I am on the Phius board. I'm a Phius rater, verifier, and CPHC just when I feel like being dangerous. And I wanted to have a chat with y'all tonight about blower door testing and the Phius certification process and verification for all of the certification types for single family, multifamily, and commercial. So this presentation is about the Phius certification paths and going into the detail of the verification process. We have been rater verifiers for probably about 6 or 7 years now. And there's been, it's happened more than once that we've gotten asked to participate on a passive house project, and they just thought that it was a blower door test. so there is a little bit more, as I'm sure you can imagine. But as we get started, I just wanted to get to know everybody here. Who all is here for single family homes or is interested in single family homes? You can unmute yourself and say aye. Or wave your hand. Okay, cool. Multifamily? Yep. Commercial? Cool. All of the above? Great. Awesome. All right. And then, hey, getting into a quiz already. I just wanted to see your understanding of the program and maybe, add some fun to this too. So when is a WFI model required in the 2021 certification? For all Phius projects, for only multifamily and commercial, it depends, or wait, what happened to PHPP? So who thinks it's for all Phius projects? You can raise your hand. Only multifamily and commercial? It depends. Yep. And wait, what happened? Okay. So yes, so it does depend. And really the kicker of this is for the single family path. They're new this year, or new with the 2021 certification, is a prescriptive path that does not require WFI modeling. So commercial, multifamily, and single family performance path do require the WFI modeling, but not the prescriptive path. Okay, next quiz question. When is a CPHB, which is a certified passive house builder or certified passive house consultant, CPHC required? For all projects, only multifamily and commercial? It depends. And then those who are still stuck on the WFI PHPP transition. All right, all Phius projects? Only multifamily and commercial? It depends. All right, so actually a CPHB and a CPHC are not required on any of the projects. They are recommended, but they are not required. And that's in the text of the new 2021 program. However, when is a rater verifier required? And we'll go through all of these. And actually the rater verifier is the only role on the project that is required for every type of passive house project that you do. Okay, cool. So the 2021 program, have made some advancements. They are aligning. There's a new Energy Star multifamily new construction program that we'll talk about a little bit later. Energy Star is one of the core foundational pieces of the passive house program. They're also coming out with a new QA/QC protocol, and there's also going to be an alignment with the new Indoor Air Plus program, which that has not come out yet either. but everything is in its draft form minus the Energy Star multifamily new construction program. So new with the 2021 Phius program is also a concentration on future energy sources. So it's taking it reflects a 2050 outlook, is where they're using some of their energy factors. You're also going to see electrification readiness. So within that, there's a focus on electrification. Electrification readiness is a new part of it. EV readiness and EV capable is also included in the 2021 program, and this chart right here is what's required for the different project types. And then new this year is also the Phius Source Zero, and that is the step towards net zero. So the core of it is that the building must generate as much renewable energy as it uses on an annual or a source energy basis. Okay, so the certification path timeline, we're still able, there are still 2018 projects that are happening. It's somewhat overlapping at this point. And then at the end of this year, the 2018 program is going to end and the 2021 program is taking over. So that will be at the start of the new year. And what you can expect if you have not been on a passive house project in the past, we start off with energy modeling. For the single family home projects, you're still going to go through the multiple certifications that are required with the multifamily. You may not do the WFI modeling as we spoke about earlier, but you will have the energy modeling and all of the compliance requirements and mandates and credits. And then you'll also have a handful of testing items. So during mid-construction, your rater verifier will be there for framing, for insulation, both interior and exterior, for air sealing details. And then typically we'll go in there and do a mid-construction blower door test, either on the unit or the whole building, so that we can gauge how effective or efficient your air seal has been. At final, we do some of the same tests, the same blower door for the whole building, as well as the unit testing. Duct testing is a part of this, domestic hot water distribution efficiency. So there's a delta T that we measure, ERV wattage, there's tab verification, photo documentation, and the good old red door of truth. That, yep. Amen for that. So, so this obviously is core. The blower door test is core, but depending on the size of the building and what you're measuring, if you're doing a unit versus the whole building, depends how many fans you need is basically dependent on the volume of the building. So are there any questions up to this point before we move on into the different certifications for single family, multifamily, and commercial? No. Okay. So as we spoke before, we've got two paths now for the 2021 program for single family, the prescriptive and the performance path. And the prescriptive path has a handful of requirements and mandates. No fossil fuel combustion equipment. There's limited floor area ratio. There's performance trade-offs. This is just a snapshot over on the right of what you will use if you go with the prescriptive program. Sorry. There's a tighter for the prescriptive program. There's also a tighter blower door target. So you need to meet 0.04 CFM per square foot of envelope enclosure, while the performance path and the other other certifications will be at 0.06. This is something that does fluctuate. However, it wouldn't necessarily be with the prescriptive path, but it would be for the performance path. And you'll see it with multifamily projects as well, that the CPHCs in working with the WFI model, they have the ability to change the blower door test target in order to meet the thresholds that are needed for Phius. That's a critical detail, though, for your rater to know, because if your rater is going on on complying with the 0.06 threshold, and as a CPHC or the CPHC on your project, if they've changed it to something tighter, that means that the builder team and the GC is going to need to work even harder, and we need to know that so that we can make sure that we're giving correct positive passing results when we do the testing. So the performance path is going to use the same multi-certification that the single family does, which is Energy Star, like we talked about earlier. For the single family program, or for the single family projects, the program is slightly different. It's got a more simplified checklist base. You have energy modeling, it's pass fail. There are, a variety of checklists. You have to have certifications for the energy rater. The builder or developer has to sign into an Energy Star partnership, and then dependent on what mechanical system the HVAC contractor will need an HQITO certification. So when you're going, when you're going for Phius certification, just a reminder, it's not just Phius. It's going to be this Energy Star, Zero Energy Ready Homes, which is the next step up above Energy Star, and it uses Energy Star as a baseline. So once you've complied with Energy Star and all of the checklists and the performance in the modeling software, we've got another threshold, energy performance threshold to meet to comply with Zero Energy Ready Homes. But there's really only, these 7 other aspects. Like Energy Star, it really is the basis. And then you need to make sure that you've got Energy Star appliances, that all of your that you're meeting 2012 and 2015 IECC thresholds, that your ductwork is all within the envelope, that you've got an efficient, I think number 4 is probably the one that most projects need to think the most about, is the domestic hot water efficiency, because the rest of it is fairly prescriptive in nature. You need to have, all Energy Star appliances, lighting, ceiling fans. I'll go through, just briefly touch on the Indoor Air Plus program that's involved in it. You need to be renewable ready. You don't have to have solar panels on, but you do have to have the infrastructure in place. So you will have to have conduits, and you'll fill out the Zero Energy Ready Homes PV ready checklist. And then for Indoor Air Plus, this closely mirrors, at least in this version, this closely mirrors the Energy Star Builder water management checklist. So the durability measures that are on this checklist are not crazy difficult. It's site mitigation, interior, like making sure that you've got proper strategies in place. If you've got radon, if you're in zone 1, it looks at low emissions for certain aspects of the interior building, like paints, carpeting, and some wood products. So it's not out of this world. However, there's a new, more comprehensive Indoor Air Plus program that's coming soon. And that was what I mentioned in the beginning which is one of the 2021, the things that Phius aligned with, is this more comprehensive version 2 of Indoor Air Plus. From what I've heard, they were supposed to have some further movement on it this year, but I don't think that it's going to be coming out until next year. They're still in the draft form of it.
And Lindsay, do you think that'll go into effect right when it comes out? Will Phius just immediately adopt it, or do you think there will be a cycle in there?
I would think that as soon as, I mean, Phius will have to comment on this, but they've made it known that they're utilizing and that they're utilizing the program, and that they're intentionally incorporating aspects of the program into the 2021 version. So I would think that there would be a pretty quick adoption of it. And then for the single family home, we also have the Phius workbook, and this is just a snapshot of one of the pages. There are a handful of pages of criteria that you have to meet, or a handful of topics. So the building envelope, ventilation, heating and cooling, domestic hot water, your plug loads, and indoor air quality. So you'll work with your rater on your projects, have them go through, obviously talk through all of the requirements that are needed. And one of the things that you'll see in the Phius workbook is a lot of the elements that are a part of Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready and Indoor Air Plus are directly pulled into the Phius workbook. So some of the measures, you know, just right off the bat, by complying with those programs, you're complying with the grand majority of the Phius workbook. Multifamily does not have the option to do a prescriptive path. This is similar to the 2018 program. We've got the same blower door threshold as 2018, so it's the 0.06 CFM per square foot of envelope enclosure. The same multifamily workbook and the same testing measures. I have heard for the 2021 program, and if anyone else would like to chime in on this, if you have experience, but I have heard that some of the modeling requirements with the 2021 program are slightly less stringent than the 2018 program. That's actually come up on one of our projects. So because of the WFI modeling, we decided, or the project team decided, to go through the 2021 program versus the 2018 program. So Energy Star multifamily new construction, it is definitely a whole new ballgame. And I was actually there at that for the Cubs, so go Cubs. So Energy Star multifamily new construction is a blend of the single family home and the multifamily high-rise programs. They instead of just looking at the unit information, which is what the now single family and townhome program is that I talked about just a few minutes ago, this is going to look at common area as well, both inspections, insulation, fenestration. We're also doing testing of the common area. So it's a much more comprehensive program. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but I just want to prepare you so that either if you're going through it, or you're working with a rater on it, or with your projects, just know that it is going to be a heavier lift. There is a continuous insulation requirement that that usually for passive house projects isn't too out of this world, because typically continuous insulation is included, but it doesn't have to. It isn't required for passive house. But because we're using the Energy Star multifamily new construction program for projects 3 stories and higher, it will need to have continuous insulation. There's requirements for the garage HVAC, so any heated plenums, podiums, elevated slabs. There's new thermal bridging mitigation requirements. There's a new functional testing checklist that is much more advanced than the program was in the past. You've got orientation trainings for the builder and the modeler. Just expect more. And there's also different compliance paths for it. So the ERI path is essentially unit modeling. So those are the HERS models that if you've done a low rise project, really anything up to 5 stories in the past, you could go through the unit modeling path. That's the ERI path in multifamily new construction. You also have the option to do prescriptive compliance, and all of the criteria is listed within the checklist requirements. And then there's also an ASHRAE path. So you'll do whole building energy modeling. As part of the ASHRAE path, your modeler is also going to fill out a performance calculator checkbook or workbook. And then there's also the multifamily workbook. If you've ever done the multifamily high-rise program in the past, it's very similar to what that is. So they're going through all the different elements from lighting to windows to envelope to unit testing, exhaust testing. All of that stuff is needed in that multifamily workbook. If you use the ERI path, that multifamily workbook is not required. So dependent on the path that you choose, there may be additional documentation that is required. And then zero energy ready homes, zero energy ready home certification at this point, this is another one that is evolving to another version, but at this point it's only available for projects. The actual certification is only available for projects up to 5 stories. So anything 6 stories and above cannot get certification. However, Phius will require you to comply with the zero energy ready homes requirements. And then indoor air plus we talked about. And here are a few screenshots of the workbook. So the single family home, if you've done a project in the past, the single family and the multifamily workbook are very similar. There are a handful of requirements that are found in one and not the other, but overall you're going to see the same category tabs in both certification workbooks. And then commercial. So this project, Techni Prairie Activity Center, Northbrook Park Activity Center, was just certified Phius 2015 Source Zero, and they actually got an award, an award mention at the Passive House conference. So kudos to anyone on the project team if you're on the call, or kudos anyway, because this is the second commercial that I know of. It's the second commercial Phius project in the state. And they did an awesome job. We were the verifiers on this project. The commercial program uses, at this point, it uses a condensed Energy Star checklist suite. So you'll find the builder water management checklist. There's the HVAC contractor, the HVAC or the HVAC rater checklist. Handfuls of sections from these checklists are required for Phius right now. They follow the Phius multifamily workbook, and so all of those screenshots that I presented earlier, you will have to comply with unless there's something that is not applicable, like unit compartmentalization testing. So and that's another word for unit blower door testing. So you'll follow the Phius multifamily workbook. I would say that even though the tab verification is not super difficult, it is critical, and it's really important to talk through with the tab contractor and explain all the different steps, you know, what you need to do, what Phius is requiring. the equipment, just all of it. And I'll go over that in a different slide. But also another aspect of the commercial program is the testing protocol. It's much more condensed than the single family or multifamily is. So you're not going to have any duct testing. You're not going to have any of the static pressure testing or bedroom pressure, obviously, because you've got a commercial project. You're only going to have the whole building blower door test and essentially the IR scan. So, so at this point, this is the current program. The upcoming program, though, is going to require you to comply with the Energy Star multifamily new construction program as much as you can. You're not going to get certified in it because it's not a residential. The multifamily new construction program is for residential projects, and these are obviously commercial. But they are taking that multifamily workbook that I was mentioning that goes through all the various aspects of the building envelope and mechanicals and all of that type of stuff. They're incorporating that into the commercial verification process. There's currently a draft of the commercial program that's on the Phius website. It hasn't been 100% adopted as of yet, but that should be coming up soon. And then overall, as part of these projects, I think that some of the key points to success that we've seen from the verifier point of view, one core critical detail or aspect is the air barrier and air sealing, obviously because it's Phius. So this was something that we actually just learned from the Passive House Accelerator, is this first point: to schedule meetings with your CPHC, your architect, builder, verifier, and go through each detail on the plan so that the whole, all of these trades understand what's required. When there are gaps in the details on the plans, the builder doesn't know, how to construct this essentially in the way that maybe you're intending it. So have the CPHC walk through all of these things. Have the architect walk through the transition details, like what happens, as you're going from your exterior wall to the roof, to the ceiling. What do you do with the mechanical penetrations? How are you handling, like all of these different details that you can talk about, but those air barrier and air sealing aspects of it and making sure that it's airtight, that it's critical that everybody understands what to do so that you can pass the whole building blower door test, or you can achieve Phius's performance threshold. So I would say that overall is a really, really important piece. For the whole building blower door test, it kind of the same thing. It's all about communication, right? So we as the verifiers always schedule a meeting with the GC, with the mechanical installer, and any particular trades that are going to be there on site that can help. And we talk through the whole process of the blower door test, where we're going to set it up, what the building needs to look like, what things can be taped off versus they have to be left in their normal state. Going through each mechanical piece so that can this be taped off? Is this a continuously running system? How are we going to handle this? Does it run intermittently? Does it get turned off at night? So that we all are on the same page of what needs to happen, both or I would say on multiple levels. One, in preparation for the event; two, the day of, And then 3, in communication with the CPHC afterwards and making sure that you're hitting your marks, that we're not taping anything off that we can't tape off. And that we're transmitting and we're giving the correct information so that the project is successful and we're not having to go back and say, well, actually, we didn't know that wasn't a continuously running system. So we've got some problems, that whole team communication is really, really, really important. And then this last one, and I always chuckle on it, and I've stolen it. Thank you, Dan Whitmore. Like I've used it multiple times. Having a dedicated air sealing specialist on the team, whomever that would be. We've talked about it and thought that it would make the most sense to have someone from the GC side. So someone who's building the project and is there really specifically looking at air barrier details and air sealing details. There's so much else going on the project. And these things are so vital to the success of the certification, that having someone who can specifically be honed in on what, what the application of the tape needs to be, making sure that the caulking was done correctly. I can't tell you how many times we've inspected buildings and the tape wasn't fully adhering onto whatever substrate it needed to adhere to, or the caulk along the sill plate was not covering the gap in between the, on the floor. So the caulk is just kind of laying there, not doing any sealant or doing any sealing. So the application is really, really, really important. And on a passive house project, it has to be all hands on deck. There is no unimportant player. And everyone on the mechanical team, the drywaller, the painter, anyone who is creating penetrations through the exterior envelope, everyone has to be on point and know that what they do impacts and is part of the success of the certification. So that piece is critical as well. And then for the testing, the tab verification, as I was mentioning before, talk through and have a meeting with the tab verifier or with the tab contractor, run through all of the Phius requirements. They're not difficult, to do. They just might not be aware of the specifics that Phius is requiring. For residential projects, as the rater, we have to use a certain type, our work is mandated. We have to test and verify according to certain standards, and some of these standards require that we use specific equipment. So if the testing and balancing team comes in and they use one set of equipment, and we come over and use our equipment, they're oftentimes going to yield different results, which can be super, super, super frustrating. So that's one side of the conversation that you can have with them, whether or not it's lending, having them buy the equipment that is approved to measure these flow rates for residential projects, or is it, having them rent equipment? But that's a key thing to know, and is a key point of frustration if it isn't worked out. Another one is just making sure that if, on commercial projects, that the equipment that they have, and residential as well, it is capable of measuring with accuracy the flow rates that they are there to verify. So we ask the tab verifier or the tab team to send us their equipment, and we review that and make sure that they at least have some piece of equipment that's going to be able to appropriately measure each flow rate on the project. And they also need to have the equipment properly calibrated. And then one other thing is that as the verifier doesn't need to, specifically on commercial projects, or if you're using an outside party, you don't need to see absolutely every single thing and verify every single register. You can do a sampling percentage. So what often happens is we will come in towards the end of the day to shadow them, look at their equipment, see the reading, and we can sign off right there. So that coordination piece too is really helpful when you have different parties using different equipment. So it's just a way to streamline things. And then another piece of this, if your projects are local or at least in Illinois, if you're in the ComEd territory, there's the ComEd multifamily. This is for affordable housing projects, though. And there's the ComEd multifamily standard. This is a new one for this year. There's no thermal bridging. Like it pretty much aligns with what you're doing for passive house. So definitely look into it. If you have an affordable housing project, you could get additional dollars for this. ComEd also has a passive building incentive right now. I believe there's a cap to it though. If you do have any questions, contact Dan Morick. I can, if you want to ask me afterwards, I can give you his information, but they've got this new pilot out for passive house projects, which actually is a pretty nice incentive that they've put together. Again, it's got some limitations on it for number of participants and I believe for time as well, but it could really help some passive house projects. There's also the 45L tax credit, and this is for single family homes and for residential, anything up to 3 stories. This is right now kind of a wait and see type of thing because it's going through Congress and is part and has been incorporated into this budget conversation, this little budget conversation that's happening in Washington right now. Currently, the 45L tax credit is commonly retroactively enforced. It does have bipartisan support, but it currently is $2,000 and it's for single family homes or multifamily buildings up to 3 stories. This new version that's being talked about in Congress is kind of moving away from the old structure. They've talked about eliminating the story limit and also tying it into Energy Star certification and Zero Energy Ready Home certification, going anywhere from $500 to $5,000 per unit. So this could be a super, super huge benefit for multifamily projects or any single family projects. Again, that Zero Energy Ready Homes piece right now is only good for projects up to 5 stories, but as the Zero Energy Ready Home program advances and as hopefully this tax credit advances, we can see some more synergies with the certifications and getting incentive dollars for the certifications. And then if you're in the city of Chicago and you're getting funding, you can get passive house. You can get some funding for passive house projects or points for passive house, and then just a handful more for the Chicago Sustainable Development Policy. So, and that is it.
That was lovely. I especially liked all the graphics and visuals. Very nice.
Yes, sorry, I was in a fall mood, so I apologize for the multiple shades of orange, but I hope it was good.
Loved it. Loved it. Hey, I was wondering if you have any photos of the IR scans that you do.
Um, I have mm, not I
Not
can look
handy.
them up on my I can look them up on my computer. Typically what we do is we will take photos. We need to take them of like all sides of the building, all critical or new transitions. And then we'll do it with a blower door on too, so that we can use that and make sure that we're using the IR as a tool to find air leakage. But some of it too is for Phius's sake and making sure that they know of any cold spots or problems in the thermal envelope.
Good way to do it.
Mhm. And that's us. So were there any questions? Does anyone?
Mark.
Yeah, many people don't really talk about the prescriptive path that you brought forward. I believe this might be the second presentation I've ever heard on it. So since you guys take part in so many third-party projects, can you give us an understanding of is that coming your way, or what's your temperature on when this is, the size of the storm that it could produce?
So I haven't heard a whole lot of chatter about the single family home program as of yet. We've had a handful of conversation with folks, and I mean, it's the prescriptive program has the benefit of not needing to have a WFI model, but there's also there's also a learning curve that comes with the different requirements that are needed, and a tighter threshold for the blower door target. So and I kind of ran through some of the requirements, but there is going to have to be thoughtful consideration on how these are being designed. And there's a comfort component to it and a condensation component to it that is wrapped up in the certification and some of the standards that Phius is using, both for the single family home and the 2021 standard for the other projects. I don't really know right now to tell you. I feel like once the 2018 standard goes away, then we'll be able to tell you who's actually doing it. But right now, people are kind of cool with the current program.
And I think you probably said it, but I'm multitasking. Do you go through the same rater requirements for the prescriptive based? You run through the same checklists?
You're still going to have to get certified in Energy Star, Zero Energy Ready, and Indoor Air Plus. So you'll still have those. Yes.
So it's basically on your end, it's the same thing. It's just the CPHC is probably the big difference, or the WFI model is the big difference. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great. And I now see Dan. So Dan, do you want to give just a little summary of the passive building program?
Sure. Yeah, so the passive building pathway is something we just launched, and I apologize for if this is news. It's really hard to send out mass emails. Like, nowadays. But what's really easy is getting more money to build better buildings for people that need them. So it is a new, I'll put the link in the chat here. But we're essentially, it's going to be a limited term and somewhat competitive process. We are going to fund affordable projects that will pursue passive house certification. We know the soft costs are a big challenge for that, so we're providing incentives for feasibility studies. You can get up to $10,000 for a feasibility study that Phius will review. We'll want to do some deep dive breakdowns and how that cost analysis compares. So trying to link the cost and energy analysis. If the project advances, we're not exclusive to just subsidized affordable housing, but I think that's basically where you're going to be able to get it, especially now that IDA and other folks are kind of prioritizing sustainability. So contact me, enroll your project. We need, kind of some preliminary information. We can give you $10,000 to help understand what that is really going to take and what's really going to cost. As the project advances, we can provide $15,000 for the design certification. That's what Phius is calling it now. We also are going to provide $1,000 in builder training so that someone in the general contracting community, to your point, we're going to put more asses out there. As the project moves through, as you do your certification, rather than having to do a bunch of paperwork with us additionally, we'll kind of, support the certification, inspection, verification. Probably be spending a lot more time talking to you, Lindsey, and all of your cohorts in the field. But ultimately, it's $5,000 a unit, up to 65 units in a development. Those have to be affordable units, so priced at 80% AMI or less. I was obviously as prepared as I up here, but I'm happy to answer any chats.
Does that work with mixed income developments? So
it does. We will incentivize just as we do in the normal affordable housing, we will incentivize the units that are earmarked as affordable. We would want the whole building to achieve those performance criteria.
Right.
Cool.
But thanks for the space, and please, by all means, anyone that you know,
We'll send it out.
I'd appreciate it to any of your partners or collaborators. It's real money. I mean, it was kind of real money before. This is even more real money, and it's real knowledge. And I'm just really excited to finally have gotten to this point. It's been many years in process to get to it. Thanks, everyone. I'm sad we can't go to the bar after this, but